GPS tracking installers, what's up, guys? Thomas Keenan here. Just got into my office, set up. As you can see, I got a bunch of shit hanging up around me, which is pretty normal. Sean's here already, so I'm gonna grab him in. Hold on.
Frank, Mark McGuire, what's going on, boys? Facebook's dragging along here. There he is. You got me. Awesome.
There you are.
How you doing, man? I'm doing well.
How you doing? Doing good.
I probably shouldn't say this, but that was the smoothest Facebook Live that I've done with somebody else ever.
I'm sure I'll screw it up later, so
it's
I don't
like
do a lot of these, but
the biggest crutch I have with Facebook. You know, you go to do a joint live with somebody and the audio doesn't connect, your headset doesn't connect, there's a terrible echo in the background. It's always my rule of thumb that something's going to get fucked up in the first 5 to 10 minutes of the live, and just deal with it.
Well, I've finally come around to the realization that Apple just does things that seem to work. So if I just use the Apple devices, and then I'm generally pretty good. So when I add other shit, then it always goes sideways.
Honestly, and this is probably a big debate amongst not just this group, but I'll call it the planet at this point. I'm an Apple guy. I switched everything over to Apple about 3 years ago, and my productivity and ease, like I don't have to worry about my computer updating 3 minutes before an important conference call anymore. You know, or the famous window updates. Oh, hey, we're updating, and this is going to take 3 hours and 27 days, and so anyway.
I still live in that world, unfortunately. I don't know. I still haven't decided to switch over my computers, but you know, all my devices otherwise, you know, Apple iPads and phones and
shit works,
AirPods and you know whatnot. But yeah.
So listen, I'm excited that you're here. I'm excited that you're in this group, because there's a lot of guys in this line of work that can definitely use your services and, you know, your skill set, which is pretty unique. We haven't had anybody in here discussing this stuff before, and it's one of those topics where, like, I guess people are kind of scared to talk about it a little bit, or, you know, God forbid something grave does happen. What's going to happen to you, your family, your employees, your business? And listen, man, this is serious stuff here, and I think a lot of people need to tune in and, you know, just listen. I'm not saying that they're going to come over here and go with you, but they need the education here and come along, and you got to know what's out there and what's available.
Yeah, I mean, the important thing is having the conversation, right? I mean, that's the scary thing. Out of sight, out of mind. You know, you talked about, you know, they don't think about it or want to worry about it. It's kind of, we push it off because it's not a comfortable conversation to have a lot of times, especially when we're self-employed and worrying about our business or splitting that with the family. Well, you know, we're going to keep pushing, you know, the bottom line. We're going to keep pushing that. We're going to keep pushing that. And then something creeps up on you, whether it's a sickness, an injury, a freak accident, whatever it is, and then you're really screwed. You know, and so it's something we all need to look at. And if you have someone you trust, you know, that you already have, great, have that conversation with them. Don't be afraid to do that. If you need someone, I'm here to bounce ideas off or just have that conversation. I'm not here asking for business. I mean, I'm here, you know, kind of helping to educate, answer questions, you know, and if I get some business, great, but that's not what I'm after. I'm here to help.
And it's one of the reasons that, you know, you and I get along. You know, I don't know if everyone here knows it, but I know you from a networking group that you and I are both members of. And I keep telling the whole world that, you know, the reason that I've been put on this planet is to help others succeed in business. So that kind of goes right along with what you just said there. Hey, I'm here to help. I'm not here, with the sales pitch. Yeah, I will sell you my shit if you want it, but that's not the intent of the conversation. And that's kind of the way that I've always looked at business from day one, even going back to my car audio days. Hey, if you want to buy my shit, great, but let me at least explain the right reason or why you should do something. So that's very cool.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. Yeah, and actually a few of you in the group, a few people in the group have already reached out, and we've had little conversations here and there, and it's great. And just people are getting more educated about what's out there. I think the media is a big pusher, especially in the health insurance. And I can talk about all sorts of lines of coverage and whatnot, but everything is Obamacare this, Obamacare that, and the ACA, and Trump care, and all this stuff. And I think the media, just like most things in the world, right? They get caught up on this crap, the stuff that really are buzzwords, and that's all everybody hears about. No one ever hears about the other stuff that's out there, the cool products that solve certain people's needs and fit certain niches. They just figure, well, it's Obamacare, it's going to be $1,000 a month or whatever it is, or more, sometimes. And that's not necessarily the case. And it's not necessarily that's a good fit for everybody, especially as far as health insurance is concerned. Sometimes it's great, sometimes it's not. It's just I'm sure, in your guys' industry, you guys have different tools for different jobs, right? Different, whatever it is to get things done. It's the same thing in insurance, at least it should be. I find lots of agents who have one product and they push that one product on everybody. Everybody's got to have this thing. Well, that's not the case. There's a different product, a different solution for everybody, and you pull that tool out when you need it. Yeah, leave it in your toolbox when you don't need it. You know what I mean? And so that's why how I look at health insurance and then insurance in general is we've got to make sure the right tool for the job. And it's usually pretty easy to uncover if you just have that conversation like we were talking about earlier. So sorry for the shakiness. I don't have one of those.
Amazon, I'll send you a link. They're dirt cheap.
Like that.
I actually have the one that I'm using has a light built into it, so it shines light, and because otherwise I get a real dark area under here between the beard and the shirt. It's just, everyone's always saying, hey man, I can't tell where your face ends and the shirt starts, so I got a light. Yeah, well, that's just one of the
neck.
The not so great benefits of being slightly overweight.
There you go. Yep. I live there. I live in that world. No matter how much I work out, I seem to eat enough tacos to keep me, slightly plump.
So, what's the best route? What's the most common thing that business owners are doing today to protect themselves and their families? Because listen, before you get to employees, that's the most important thing. Family comes first.
Yeah.
In my opinion.
Yep. So two things. And so it's kind of a two-headed kind of deal. Business owners, to protect themselves as far as their health insurance is concerned, is going to be getting a health plan that's catastrophic in nature. Whether that, if you have lots of employees, whether that means looking at a group style plan, and there's lots of different options to do that. Or if you're just an independent contractor, single person or a couple people, business owners, there are individual plans that make more sense. Usually a group of two, right, is almost the same cost, very similar benefits or worse than going on a plan that has, that's designed for you specifically. Once you start getting into those groups of 5, 10, 15, 25 people, well, then that's a whole different conversation. We need to kind of go that route. But number one, we have to identify what the desired use for that coverage is, right? Do you already have diabetes? Have you had cancer in the past? Do you have a surgery coming up? Do you take lots of medicines? Whatever it is, or are you completely healthy? Perfect height and weight, everything's great. You just think the world can't beat you, right? Well, you still need something. This is a common story I tell my clients all the time when we're having this, especially young clients. When I was 20 years old, I was working in between. I was trying to get my own business up off the ground, but I was working part-time at Lowe's doing flooring installations, selling flooring installations, but I had just gotten hired on. So there's a 90-day wait in between when my old coverage kicked in or left and my new coverage kicked in, right? And I was like day 40, 45, something like that. And I came down. I was at my wife's. We were girlfriend, boyfriend at that time, and I just had this terrible stomach ache. Like, she's a nurse. I told her I was dying. She thought I was just being a puss. And she went to work. She was working nights. I actually drove to the emergency room. I didn't have health insurance. Okay, I was 20 years old. I was an idiot. I didn't have health insurance, and I sat there in the emergency room parking lot in my car. I remember it, 73 Nova. Like, I thought I was, big tough guy. And I was curled over in this car, like literally in tears, with her on the phone. She's at work, and she's telling me, it's just gas. Go home. Just do this. And it wasn't. So I went home, toughed it out through the night. I drove to my doctor's office the next morning because I knew that would be way cheaper than an emergency room visit. I sat down on the table. He tapped my heel with his little thing he normally taps your knee with. He told me, you are not driving anywhere. We are either calling an ambulance or whoever's with you can drive you to the hospital. You are going there now. Your appendix is rupturing. It was actively rupturing. They cut me. I still have a scar to this day. Thank God that I actually went in and didn't just try to tough it out because I could have died, but it was actually rupturing. And I didn't have health insurance. Wow. I was in the hospital for 10 days just because it had ruptured. And this was, 17, 18 years ago now. At that time, they came up, and this didn't include the other stuff like radiology and stuff, but just the hospital bill. The lady came up on my day I was being sent out, put it down on my bed and said, how would you like to pay for this? We take Visa, MasterCard, or check. It was a bill for $20,000 just for a ruptured appendix. And that was 18 years ago, 17 years ago. And so I try to tell people that is like, I was young, I was dumb, I was partying, but I was in great shape at that time. I didn't think the world could hurt me, but something like that can, and that's, doesn't seem, $20,000, in today's world isn't nearly as much, but it's still a lot of money, and what if it's not something like an appendix? What if it's something worse, like a heart attack? That's like a $500,000 event, and so for $100, a couple $100, even, $400 or $500 a month for a family or something like that, super catastrophic coverage can really save you. It's one of those things. Even if you think the world's nothing's going to happen to you, it will. It can. And I was in tears. I literally busted down in tears. At that point I was, 220 pounds, 6'1", like I'm a big dude, and I am just crying like a little child. Like, I didn't know what to do. I didn't know how to, and I worked out of that situation. I got on a payment plan. I figured it out. But it took me a long time to figure that out. And had I just had insurance, I would have been out, maybe a couple grand.
I like the fact that you mentioned a story, and I have one that's really similar. I'll give it to the whole group here real quick. So I was 25 years old. I think it was like 2005 roughly. And I had owned my first business, and we did custom car audio installations. I had my own shop, and I talk about it a lot in my book, actually. I was the technician / owner / everything else in the business. Like, if I wasn't there, the joint didn't operate at all. Okay. So here I am, 25 years old, and I'm working 20-hour days, literally every day. And shit's just catching up with me. I gained a tremendous amount of weight. I stopped working out. I wasn't physical. I was always at the shop working. So I'm creeping up to like 300 pounds. And again, like you, I'm a big dude. I'm 6'4", but 300 pounds is like, it's no man's land. I don't belong there. Yeah, it's heavy. So
it's heavy. Yeah.
I started having a pain in my ass, literally, in my right butt cheek. All right, no big deal. Let it go. It's fine. Pop some Tylenol. Months go by. I start seeing a chiropractor around the corner, start getting some adjustments. I got to pay everything out of pocket. I have no health insurance. Okay. If things get worse, I stop going to the chiropractor because it's not helping. Now I'm popping 4 and 6 Tylenol 2 and 3 times a day. And I still have this pain in my ass, which has now began to travel down my left leg, my right leg, all the way down to my big toe. Okay. I didn't know what the hell it was at the time. Okay. Long story short, I had several slipped discs or herniated discs in my lower back on both sides. And a lot of it had to do with me being overweight, previous motor vehicle accidents when I was younger, playing sports, not being active anymore. Everything kind of just came together at the right time and really fucked me hard. And it was nobody else's fault but me, looking back at it, you know? So here I am, 25 years old. I have a customer's car in the shop that I'm putting a remote start in at the time. I'm halfway through the job and I can't stand up. Okay, I walk. I get out of the car and I crawl to my telephone. I crawl to the telephone on the wall, and I call my mom, who lives about a mile away, and I'm like, "Hey, you got to come pick me up. Like, I'm really hurting bad. I'm messed up." So she comes, and now it's this whole ordeal just for me to get into the car. I go home. I wind up spending 3 weeks in bed because I couldn't move. Finally, go to like a pain management facility, go see a couple doctors, all cash out of pocket, no health insurance, you know, start getting some shots and some treatments. And I think I was young enough at the time where I was able to kind of work my way out of it. You know, when you're that young, your body just rebuilds itself so quickly. And still to this day, you know, my back has never been the same. I know what to look out for and what to do. But the whole point of my long-winded story here is I had to shut my entire business down for 3 weeks. That financially crippled me for a really long time. I couldn't make any money. Yeah. No one was there doing the work. And this is one of the whole reasons that I dive in so deep and talk about, you know, you not being the only one in your business who's able to produce and get things done. I'm a huge proponent of that. But, you know, if I had some kind of catastrophic plan that you offer in place, maybe that would have been enough for me to at least not go as deep into the hole as I did.
Yeah. Well, and just me, just listening to your story, there's two ways to look at it. Obviously, the health insurance, that's first line of defense. It would have probably prevented a lot of that. You would have gone and seek preventative treatment, seek the doctors before it became so bad, you know, that kind of thing. But also from a business standpoint, once you get into that point, you know, you can, you know, to where you're profitable, you know, obviously when we first start out, sometimes that's harder. But once you start becoming profitable, once you start getting some things coming in, you can start looking at, you know, tools like key man policies, you know, disability, you know, type key man policies, life type team policies. For instance, you know, similar to that situation, but a lot worse. My uncle owns a company that since I was a little kid, they put in conveyor and racking systems for huge companies across the country. Like they go in and weld up those massive, like 4 deep pallet racks and whatnot across the country. Well, his partner, it's been a long time coming. He had like a heart valve replacement. He had a major thing, and then he ended up having a major coronary incident, so where he actually died. So this partner, who they run the business together, this massive, I mean, it's multi-million-dollar company, he passed away. What happens, right? When that happened, his wife came in and wanted to be completely cashed out of the business. My uncle had to come up with either, you know, liquidate part of the company, come up from his savings in order to buy her out, right? Or a policy can be put in place, but way beforehand, potentially, to be able to do that. Now, that's some kind of high level, you know, starting to, you know, move into some other stuff that's not health insurance related, but, you know, these conversations can lead, especially with business owners, can lead to, let's plan for this in the future. If not now, let's talk about what we can do to kind of figure this out in the future. Have the company pay for it, right? It can be a business expense sometimes. You know, you buy it on each of the key men. You know, there's someone who just, you can't, you know, partners usually, right? Or even employees that do, you know, massive amounts of work that so the business couldn't survive without. You can do these types of things, you know, and these are just, like I said, tools that we have to offer to folks, but a lot of people don't think about it until it's too late.
It's good that you mentioned that, because it's actually something that that my partner and I have in place. It took us a while to do it because we were just too naive and dumb when we first started the business, but a couple of years into it, you know, start educating yourself more and more. And we do have a buy-sell agreement in place, you know, that we can have different ways out of the business, different things change. God forbid someone passes away. You know, we have, key man insurance in place that would allow us, you know, to cover each other and not have to come out of pocket for it. Because realistically speaking, and this is how our attorney kind of put it to us. It was like, all right, let's say your partner dies. Do you really want his spouse as your business partner moving forward? and I'm not saying anything bad about my partner's wife. I love her to death. She's a great woman. But no, I don't want to be in business with her because she doesn't know a third of what my partner knows business-wise. It's just a harsh reality.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. Well, you went into a business with this one person, right? I mean, and no matter how close this other person is to them, no matter how great of a person is, they're going to have a different way of looking at things than your business partner who you chose and vetted essentially, right? Or friends with, or, whatever it is. It's just important. It's protecting yourself and your business and your customers, right? Who, if you have to liquidate your business because that happened, where do your customers go during that time period, right? I mean, even if the business doesn't completely fall apart, you're going to be way backed up. There's going to be things that don't happen, follow-ups. I mean, all sorts of things are going to fall apart during that time period. And it can be a long process getting back from something like that.
So what other stuff do you guys have that, can protect?
But yeah, go ahead.
Listen, most of the guys who are in this group here are, subcontractors for other companies like mine, or they do have a business of their own, and they are the technician. It's either them and their wives who do the paperwork in the office, they go out in the field and do the work, or they have a very small, close group of guys that work with them, or might even sub for them. So we're talking, some small organizations. Don't get me wrong. There's some guys in this group that have large companies and a couple good number size employees out in the field. But I think the real focus here is not necessarily for those guys. It's more for the guy who's a 1 or 2 man show and he wants to cover his ass. What do you recommend, and what options do they have?
Yeah, so I mean that's the individual side, and so what I would say is there's really 3 ways to look at it. 2 are probably preferred, but I bring in the third option because some people really need certain types of benefits, and so I'll go over that in just a second. So the first one, obviously, it's going to be totally income dependent if that's a tool we want to talk about. That's the ACA, that's Obamacare, right? I'm not going to spend a lot of time talking about it because a lot of people have heard about it. Nothing to be scared of, right? If you qualify for a tax credit and subsidy, let's figure it out. Like we all pay taxes, whether we agree with it on a political level, it's still available. It's still there for people, and take advantage of the free money if you got it. Again, I'm going to be Switzerland here. Like I don't necessarily always agree politically with it, but if you qualify for it, let's talk about it. You can get the most benefits if you qualify for tax credits. That said, if you don't, it's going to be really, really, really expensive, no matter where you live in the country. So that's when we look at alternatives. A lot of people are marketing this stuff. You'll see it on the internet as Trump Care. Well, that's a little BS. Anybody who tells you they're going to try to sign up for Trump Care, there's no such thing. Nothing's ever been said. It's just some sort of rebranding, crazy marketing scheme to get you to pick up the phone or to click on a link or that kind of thing. So be careful when you're out there looking for these types of things or talking to people. They bring up Trump Care, it's a load of hooey. Believe me, if you want to have a conversation about that later, we can certainly do that. But there's no such thing as Trump Care. What they're selling are a couple different options, okay? Fully underwritten plans. There are some companies out there that do traditional fully underwritten plans. These are agents that are going to be, that are great agents. I partner with a bunch of them that are out there. There's some really great people that do that. But they're almost always captive to that one company. So they're that person who can only sell that one product. And that's why I partner with them, is because when I find somebody that needs that product, I send it to them, right? And so I can't cover everything. I can do about 99% of everything else. They send a lot of stuff to me because of that, because they can only do the one thing. But that's an option out there. If you qualify medically, it's a good solution, okay? But the other alternatives are going to be short-term medical, okay? Short-term medical is a scary name, okay? It's in the past, it could only be during the Obama administration, it could only be for 3 months. They really put some limitations on it. Now it can go for a full year. Matter of fact, in some places, it can be renewed for 2 to 3 years, depending on where you're at, and guaranteed renewed, which is cool. So you're not just stuck. But it's that catastrophic coverage. You're going to have $1 million, $2 million worth of coverage, so that if you have that cancer incident, you're going to be fully covered, right? What we do with those, because those are going to be very, very basic plans, is we usually couple those things with accident plans, right? You hurt yourself either off the job or on the job, depending on the type of plan we need. You're going to be covered. We're going to cover that deductible, so you're not out $2, $3, $5, $10,000, depending on what your deductible is. Critical illnesses, same thing. We want to cover those things. These are inexpensive little plans we put in with the short-term medical option to cover those types of events. I mean, there's also, we could have a whole one of these on ancillary products and, you know, supplemental benefits, but it's filling those needs, those things that, you know, if you have a 12-year-old kid, right, and you're getting family coverage, you know, for you and your business and whatnot, you're probably going to want an accident plan because there's a good chance that that kid's going to break his arm or, you know, twist an ankle, or you're going to end up in the emergency room, and you want to avoid paying that, you know, $1,000, $2,000, $3,000 while you're there, you know. So that's one solution, right? The other solution is what's called fixed indemnity. Fixed indemnity are for those folks who are not so concerned about the crazy, oh my gosh, this terrible situation is going to happen. They're more concerned about, I go to the doctor 3 or 4 times a year, I'm sick of paying $200 a shot. The person who has 2 or 3 medications that they're sick and tired of paying $30, $40 for, they want to get reimbursed for some of that. They may have you know, they still want to have some hospitalization coverage, but it's not going to be catastrophic. So maybe we put in a $4,000 per day hospital benefit. So if they go into the hospital for 5 or 6 days, right, they're not on the hook for $2,000 a day every day they're in the hospital. They're going to have some money to come back to them so they can pay that and not out of their own pocket. With all of these, it's very important to understand what they cover and what they don't. And that's why when I have a conversation with someone, we get into that. We find out what's important to them to make sure it's covered, and we make sure they understand what's not covered. With all of your non-Obamacare stuff, more than likely, unless it's fully underwritten, and usually with those fully underwritten plans, you're going to have some form of waiting period for these benefits. It's usually 3 things that aren't fully covered, okay? When I say fully covered, sometimes they're partially covered. But really? Pregnancy almost always is not covered, okay? Yeah. So a big thing to know, right, is if you're planning to have kids, we time this. So we say, okay, well, it's July, right? You haven't had coverage, traditional coverage in a long time. Let's give you covered from now until the end of the year. I'm good. And okay, cool. And if you're going to, you know, you're going to be trying to have kids, let's reconnect at the end of the year, and we can get your wife on her own plan to make sure that the baby's covered and the birth is covered. So having that open conversation is huge when it comes to pregnancy stuff, because I have sold these plans to people and said, hey, I know you're planning to have a kid, that's fine, but you're not pregnant yet. So let's get you on this plan. You've got 8 months left of this. It's going to take you a couple months to get pregnant anyway. And those doctor visits initially, believe me, I've got 3 kids. You've got kids. Like, I mean, we get it. Those initial costs of those doctor visits aren't a ton. They're $100, maybe $200 max, right? We can handle that. We just can't handle the $74,000 C-section like my twins were, you know, 2 years ago. So yeah, right. So what we do is during open enrollment, you know, maybe she's 7 months pregnant along at this point. Boom, we get her enrolled in an ACA plan, have the kids, make sure they're healthy and everything's great before we switch them off of the ACA. And once they're done, then we can maybe switch them to something that is cheaper, right? So we can kind of use the system to our advantage. I mean, they use us, well, we might as well use the system to our advantage too, you know? You know, so that's the one thing. Pregnancy. Mental health is another thing. A lot of these alternative options don't cover mental health products or mental health, you know, services, you know, drug abuse, rehab, even talking to a counselor. So if you're on those types of things, certain plans are going to make more sense than others, right? And so we got to make sure, don't just let someone shove you into plan and you know that you're bipolar, but you just say no on the question, and then it comes up down the road where you got to be hospitalized and you have no coverage. Like, just have an open, honest conversation. Make sure who you're talking to knows what your needs are, and we put you in the proper plan. I tell people no, or, you know, to them choosing, hey, I want the cheapest thing possible. No, I'm not going to sell you a $50,000 deductible health plan. I don't care who you are. I'm not going to do it. That's just me. If you want to do that, go. There's plenty of places that'll over the phone will just sign you up for whatever the heck you want. And I'd rather not have that headache, quite frankly. I want to make sure you're covered. I don't want to have those phone calls. It's not worth it to anybody to have that heartache.
Yeah, I agree.
No matter how rich you are, in my opinion. So, you know, but yeah, so it's really those two options other than the ACA on the individual level. Now, I did say small groups. A lot of times it's better to go individual than it is to go group. There is some caveats to that. There are certain states out there, and I'm licensed in 36 states. Unfortunately,
I know we had that conversation already.
Yeah, we've had that conversation. It's just there's just like
I'm
nothing
not
available
surprised.
there. So
I live in the worst state in the union besides California, probably.
Yeah. California actually has a couple options, but yes, you know, that kind of the New York, New Jersey area is really rough for coverage, but kind of going off on a tangent here. But the group side of things, we can do small groups, and the small group, if you're a healthy individual, now these are always underwritten plans, okay? But what they're called is self-funded plans, right? So say the small group comes together and they say, well, we're going to cover the first $10,000 in costs, you know, operating costs for the coverage, right? And that's just an arbitrary number. It could be 2,000, could be 100,000, it could be, depending on the size of the group, it all just depends. But we can tailor these plans to what your needs are. And these do cover mental health, pregnancies, all those types of other things. So even if it's a really small group, right? I mean, I think the sweet spot is usually between 5 and 25 employees, including the owners and stuff. But we can go down as low as 2 people, as long as they're not husband and wife, right? So it's like one and a business partner. We can go that low in some states. But it gives you the ability to see the network of providers, because that's another big thing. With these short-term medical and the indemnity plans, your network of providers are going to be so much more massive and better than Obamacare, because that's a big thing that people don't understand about Obamacare is you are on this tiny little network 99.9% of the time, to where you basically have to go to the county health department to go get seen, and that's your quote primary care provider. So what we're, you know, a lot of people, you know, don't care about having catastrophic coverage, don't care about, you know, all the bells and whistles. They just want to be able to go see the doctors they want to go see. With these group plans like that for these, you know, these smaller groups, we can do this where we can put you on a network, a Cigna network. You know, we can tailor these plans to have copays at the doctor and mental health coverage and pregnancy coverage and all these types of things. So it's a good way to at least explore those options and make sure you can go see who you want to go see. Because I would say that's the least talked about thing in healthcare right now, but it's one of the most frustrating things for my clients is when they want the cheapest thing out there, and they happen to be, you know, qualify for a subsidy or something, and then they go try to find a doctor, even if they're on Blue Cross, and they're like, well, we don't take that kind of Blue Cross, and they're like, excuse me, well, I thought Blue Cross took everybody. No, they don't. They all have like 15, 20 different networks that you need to be a part of, and these alternative options are usually worth a little bit more sometimes, and they're actually way less if you don't qualify for a subsidy, but if you do qualify for a subsidy, they're generally going to be a bit more, but you get to go see who you want to go see, generally speaking. So it's a good key thing to kind of at least address and look at.
No, it's great.
I know a lot of this is kind of boring for a lot of
John
folks.
Meach just posted up a question here. He's one of the admins in the group, and he's got a really good question. I don't know if you can see them on your end or not.
Okay.
That's fine. I'll read it off to you. It says, can a group consist of individuals from many organizations, or could a group of individuals create an entity specifically for this?
Great question. Yes and no, quickly. So I'll address both parts of that. So like, let's say you have 1099 contractors, right? You're a business owner, but you 1099 out to a bunch of folks, right? We can do 1099 employees, okay? So we can create a group like that. So it'd have to be under one entity. Now, the law last year was changed. Now let's go on to the other. That was quick. If there's any follow up to that, I can adjust. So, but the answer is yes, we can do 1099 like contractors. You know, if you're you employ, I don't care how many contractors, right? We can set up 1099 groups to insure on those self-employed plans. Now, the other side of that, can you create an association or a group of people just for the purpose of health insurance? The answer right now is no. Okay, but last October, President Trump and his administration basically killed a ruling that said that that could not happen. Okay, so there used to be a law within the ACA or the Obamacare that said you could not create an association or group could not obtain health insurance for the sole purpose of getting health insurance. Now, what they did is they now say that you can have an association and you can have association-based health plans. Okay, but no one has been able to figure out that side of it. They're working hard on it. Okay, all the big actuaries are working to try to figure out how to calculate that risk, right? Because it's a hard thing to calculate, right? If you're looking at it from the insurance person's perspective, because you've got all these people coming in for the sole purpose of getting health insurance. Well, we don't know what their risk factors are, right? They're coming in from any walk of life. We have no idea, no way to underwrite that. So what's the cost associated? So what you're going to see is a lot of industry-specific networks or associations, like realtor associations or truck drivers associations or whatever, nurses associations are going to start seeking this stuff out, and so they will be coming. It's just a matter of when. To give you an idea of why it's taking so long, if you submit a new type of business, if you're an insurance company, you imagine and create a new insurance type of plan, right? You have to take that proposal to each individual state, okay, submit that for approval. Wow. The quickest I've ever seen something come back is 6 months from the time you submit it. So it can take years to create these plans, right, to make sure they're going to be profitable, and then you have to submit them. And in certain states like New York, New Jersey, Washington, California, Florida sometimes, I mean, there's a lot of states out there that will take years to approve these, if ever. So it's one of those types of things that while the law's been kind of struck down, it's going to take time for us to see that. And it's one of the things that's exciting about health insurance is I'm hoping we get to that, or there's a few other things I could grant.
No, that's powerful.
That I hope we get to, but
yeah. So listen, when you get some clarity on that and the ball seems to be rolling, make sure you reach back out to me, because I'm getting pinged from guys on here already that are interested, and I'm totally for
sure,
of creating an association within our network of people here. We got 508 people as of this morning in this group. So we can definitely put together an association of some type and really help a lot of people. That's definitely something that I would be interested in setting up and organizing and helping people.
Yeah. I mean, that's what I'm going to be doing once we get word that that's officially happening. It's just, we don't know when. We were hopeful we'd start hearing rumors about it, but it's something that it's kind of stalled out, I think, a little bit, but hopefully someday. I think in the meantime, those self-funded type plans, for groups of employed companies employing contractors and things like that, are kind of quasi doing that, right? Because they are 1099, so you're seeing a lot more of that. We've done realtor groups, where they're their own business, right? But they work for a RE/MAX, and that particular RE/MAX agency has put it together, and they have the ability to opt into this plan, and it works. You can do it like that. So even if you're kind of quasi running your own show, but you're working under another, a general contractor, for lack of a better way to put it, right? We can put that stuff like that together.
Awesome. Anything else you think we should share here with anybody? Best way to get in contact with you, best way to ask any questions, FAQs, that kind of stuff?
Yeah, best way, I mean, I can put, my Calendly link in there is to, generally to hop on my Calendly, or you can send me direct messages. My phone number is right there if you go to, I've got an open profile. I don't hide it. All my clients get my cell phone number. So I do email, text. I mean, you want to get in touch with me, you can get in touch with me. I'm totally open to having a conversation, whether it be short or long, helping educate you about, what's going on or what you're concerned about. I do it all. This was based on health insurance because that's what we talked about was the most pressing matter. But, sometimes folks, I know in one of the posts when we first started, people started talking about accident and Affleck and all that kind of stuff. We have solutions for that kind of stuff. We have I mean, just about anything, man, we can address and talk about. And, you know, and if there's something, if you stump me, you know, awesome. That excites me. And it allows me to go back and I'll tell you straight up, I don't know the answer, but I will certainly dig in and find it. But most of the time, you know, I've been doing this long enough where most of the time I have a pretty good idea of where that's going to be and where that's going.
My biggest takeaway from this whole conversation, and it doesn't surprise me because I've just kind of felt this way about a lot of things in life. It's basically, make sure you go speak to an expert, because this right here is just, it's an avenue in life and business, whatever you want to call it, that is way too fucking complex for the average Joe. And I really think you need an expert opinion to help you navigate those choppy waters and get the right solution for you, your family, your business, your employees, or whatever you have structured behind you. So I definitely say go out and find someone like yourself and get the right answers, because otherwise you're going to be there forever trying to select the right plan.
100%. And I mean, and this isn't, you know, everybody's got, you know, Auntie Susie or whoever it is who worked for an insurance company years ago, and they all go to and ask questions, and that's fine to get basic questions answered. But if they haven't been practicing or they haven't been in that specific field for a long period of time, as I'm sure your industry changes, I mean, with technology, right, all the time, this industry changes sometimes daily. I mean, it's crazy. I'll get notices from insurance, you know, the insurance companies are going out of business, or they're moving or changing their plans, or, you know, this is going to become available, or a new law gets passed. If you don't live it, right, if you're not in that specific industry, living it on an everyday basis, it's really quick to fall behind. It really is. And so the information when you worked in this business 5 years ago, 2 years ago, you know, maybe a completely different world now than it was then. And so, and I'm sure that's the same in so many different, you know, and I always tell people, like, I'm not a CPA. I'm not going to give you tax advice. I know a little bit, right? I'll help direct you to, you know, maybe direct you someplace or send you to a CPA to help answer that question, but I'm not going to answer tax advice. I'm not going to try to, you know, talk to you about car insurance, you know, even though, you know, at one point I was licensed and now I'm not, but I don't do that. I don't want to do that. It's not my area of expertise, but we have plenty of people in the industry that we can send you to, you know, if you need someone, or if you have someone, I'll direct you back to your person, you know, and I'd love to talk to that person usually, because it's always a good, you know, it helps me help understand what they're telling people, and, you know, so I can help make sure, you know, they're already covered on something through their car insurance. I don't want to double cover you. You know, I want to make sure we're getting there, you know, the gaps filled and filling gaps that need to be filled.
That's an important point. You double cover. Like, you know, you might have some kind of clause written into another policy where you're covered for X, Y, and Z. So why are you going to go and pay double for it in another policy?
Yep, exactly. And I mean, it's with everything, but me personally, I keep a close group of people around me in specific sectors, to where, because these are the common things that come up. Someday I'm going to create a business where we all sit under one roof and, you know, can kind of sit around the table in front of one client and help answer and go with everything. But it's important to have trust in your advisors, and it's important that your advisors have trust in each other, right? And that's something that I find a lot. This is where we get in contention with other advisors, is if you have advisors that are saying absolutely no, that's the horrific possible way to do something, take a step back and try to understand why they're saying that. Because usually the good advisors will never tear apart a specific product. They will do like I do, and they'll say, hey, that's a great tool, but I think we might be using the wrong tool for the job, right? Because that's usually the key. It's usually a way to identify someone who's a one-trick pony. And I don't talk bad about people. I will just say, you know, if that's what you want to do, great. If you want to hear another solution to that problem, I'd be happy to talk to you. But it's, you know, it's not something. I never talk bad about specific people or specific products, because there's always someone who's appropriate for that. So just be aware of. I would say that's a big, you know, kind of telltale sign that someone's trying to push something on you, is if they're not willing to listen to other, you know, other solutions or other possibilities.
Awesome, man.
So, yeah. So, yeah, happy to talk. shoot me DMs, you know, as the questions come up. I'll answer, obviously, on the replay of this, so I'll answer any questions as they come up.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I'm really glad you're over
Thanks
here
for having
and
me
able to
on.
help out, you know, the guys who are my network, because these people in this group are important to me. And, you know, it's cool that I got guys like you and guys in my network that isn't necessarily the tracking network that I'm able to bring in here to help these people on a grander scale. I can only do so much, you know what I'm saying? Which is cool. So,
yeah. Oh, totally. And I appreciate the opportunity to help you guys. I mean, and that's why I'm here. Like I said before, I'm not here to sell you guys anything in particular. I'm not here to offer my wares. I'm here to answer questions and help you guys get, you know, protected, you know, and understand where you need to go. You know, even if it has to be a 6-month plan or a year plan we need to put in place for you to get to the point where you can do this, at least you're taking that first step, you know, to making sure you're protecting yourself, your family, your business, whatever it is. Just don't forget about it until it's too late. I hate those phone calls I get where it's like, I just had a heart attack. I can't afford to help, you know,
I can't help you now.
Health bills. Well, at that point, it's too late. Agreed. So don't wait.
Awesome,
wait
man.
long.
Listen, thanks for coming in today. Make sure you drop in your contact info, your Calendly link, whatever, into this video.